So like most people, I want to think that I'm a good, kind, caring, sensitive person. But at the same time, there is an undeniable part of me that wishes I was a harsh, cruel food critic. You know, the type of food critic that goes into a restaurant, orders one meal, and then judges the entire restaurant and decides the fate of that company. It's a bad side of me, I know, but I believe it is there, and I figured I would let that side out of me in a way that's fairly harmless by creating a quick-to-judge book challenge. So what I'm gonna do here is I have a stack of 10 books from my bookshelves that I plan to read anyway, that I have not read yet, and I am going to judge them based off of the first paragraph. Now, the first paragraph that pleases me the most is going to immediately put its book on my March TBR. I would like you to follow along and judge it with me. I'll make sure to put the text up. If you've already read the book, let me know if the judgment was fair. If you haven't read the book, try to be cruel just like me. So the first book I have is The Lies of Locke Lamora. You're going to quickly discover I will never be hired to do audiobooks, but bear with me. At the height of the long, wet summer of the 77th year of Sendovani, the thief-maker of Camor paid a sudden and unannounced visit to the eyeless priest at the temple of Perilandro, desperately hoping to sell him the Lamora boy. I get a feel of like a city. So, atmosphere, wet summer, in a city, a bunch of thieves. Okay, that's what this is, and that's what I'm going to judge it off of. You know what? This actually sounds pretty intriguing to me based off the first paragraph. We'll see how that goes later on. Okay, so the next book I have is Wicked Fox. Gumi Young's relationship with the moon was complicated, as are most relationships centered around power. Okay, so this intrigues me into why is her power centered on the moon, and if her power is reliance on the moon, if there's like this connection, if it's just moonlight, if there's something else like supernatural. I need a little bit more to get hooked. We'll see how that sits with me in a few minutes. Okay, so switching genres here, I got The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I have read Ruth Ware before, so maybe the writing style will already feel familiar. The first inkling that something was wrong was waking in darkness to find the cat pawing at my face. I must have forgotten to shut the kitchen door last night, punishment for coming home drunk. Okay, so my analysis of this first paragraph. First of all, I do like cats, so that's something. But she says the inkling that something was wrong, and she assumes that she came home drunk the night before, which makes me think that she does not usually do that, otherwise it wouldn't feel like an unusual event. Is that enough to engage me, the fact that she came home drunk and there's a cat pawing at her face? Maybe if I read the rest of the page, but I'm not doing that right now. S.T.A.G.S, One Deadly Weekend. I think I might be a murderer. Okay, yes, I'm intrigued. Because you think you might be a murderer, so you don't know you are. You're not sure. What does she mean by that? It's actually pretty effective, too. Because, like, between that first paragraph and the next one, there's, like, several blank lines. Okay, I want to know more. Next book, we have A Plague of Giants. Now, I'm interested in giants, and I have never heard anyone talk about this book, but I found it for $1 at the dollar store, so we'll see if the first paragraph is at all engaging. When we encounter a voice that moves us on an emotional level, by turns wringing tears from our eyes and plucking laughs from our bellies, there is an ineffable quality to its power. All we know is that we like listening to it and want to hear more. But when we encounter voices we find loathsome, we usually can pinpoint why without difficulty. Too nasal, too whiny, too steeped in anger or sodden with melancholy. Okay, so I was a choir kid in high school, so I do like the emphasis on voices and the quality of the voice and if the voice pleases you or not. I do pay attention to people's voices quite a bit. I don't know if that's normal. Even when I watch like YouTube videos, I will pay attention to their voice. So I kind of felt like a personal connection with like looking at voices and thinking about different types of voices, but it didn't leave me with the same like level of mystery that this one did with the I'm a potential murderer, or not me. The person is a potential murderer. Definitely not me. Anyway, so intriguing to me in a different way. I kind of like the style of this prose, and I did get a little bit more from it than I got from some of the other books, but I don't know still. Okay, so I think I might do a preliminary ranking because I have 10. I've already read 5. So I'm going to rank the 5 that I've read so far and show that to you, and then hopefully the other 5 will be easier to rank later with these. Okay, out of the first 5, I'm most intrigued with the main character thinking she's a murderer but not seeming certain about it. I am also loving the prose focusing on voice and trying to connect immediately with something a little bit more abstract before getting into whatever the topic of the book happens to be. So I like the writing in this one. I think this one is set up to be a really interesting story, and I think that the first paragraph kind of introduces that story a little bit, but it wasn't enough to super grab my attention, so that puts it in third. Woman in Cabin 10 probably gets crazy later on, but right now I just see like a drunk woman, so do I want to read a book about a drunk woman? I'm not sure, but I do like cats. And then even though this intro to Wicked Fox was short and sweet, this is the one that was basically her relationship with the moon or something, it just wasn't enough to get me. Whereas, it's kind of funny because the other one, I Think I Might Be a Murderer, was shorter than the first paragraph of this, but it was a big enough punch to beat out a lot of the longer paragraphs. Okay, so Red Mars. I've heard lots of good things about this science fiction from the 90s. It says right here, wait, why am I saying what it won and stuff? I'm not judging it based off hype. I'm judging it based off of the first paragraph. Mars was empty before we came. That's not to say that nothing had ever happened. The planet had accreted, melted, roiled, and cooled, leaving its surface scarred by enormous geological features, craters, canyons, volcanoes. But all of that happened in mineral unconsciousness and unobserved. There were no witnesses, except for us, looking from the planet next door. And that only in the last moment of its long history. We are all the consciousness that Mars has ever had. Last moment of its long history. What is this? Okay, my first impressions. I'm confused. And I really like the writing style. But confused in like a good way, in like what the heck is going on. And I think that's what a science fiction wants to do to you. So I'm not going to discount this one. Okay, the next one is The Name of the Wind. It was night again. The Waystone Inn lay in silence, and it was a silence of 3 parts. So, this seems very stereotypical based off the first paragraph. We're in an inn at night. Stopping right after that first paragraph makes me feel like I'm in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign, and the Dungeon Master just throws you in an inn because that's standard. The only thing that seems to really intrigue me from this first paragraph is silence of 3 parts. How can silence have 3 parts? Other than that, meh. The next one is The Devil and the Dark Water, which I'm really excited to read, so see if the first paragraph does any good. Errant haze howled in pain as a rock slammed into his massive back. Starting off with action. This is how you start a book. You throw a rock at a random character, and that's interesting. That is what they should be doing. Name of the Wind, I know it's a great book and people love it, but really, you're just in an inn. You just have the main character's just, or is it even the main character? Someone's just in an inn at night while someone could be throwing a rock. That's how you start a book. This is pretty good. I like this one. Okay, My Lovely Wife. She is looking at me. Her blue eyes are glassy. They flicker down to her drink and back up. I look at my own drink and can feel her watching, wondering if I'm as interested as she is. I glance over and smile to show her I am. She smiles back. Most of her lipstick is gone, now a reddish smear on the rim of her glass. I walk over and to take the seat next to her. So this is very effective because I really had the urge to continue on. I think starting this with romance was genius because, it's called My Lovely Wife. There's a woman with a knife on the cover. So I'm kind of wondering, is this how this guy meets his wife who ends up being murderous or something like that? And you get to see it starting as like a normal relationship and then evolving from there. And that's just kind of the picture that I get from the first paragraph. Could be completely false, but enough to intrigue me for sure. So I guess starting with murder or romance or violence is really working for me. The last book is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I'm wondering if this is going to be a good, short, snappy intro, or if it's going to be like a really long, eloquent prose. I really like Brandon Sanderson. I've read some of his works, but I actually haven't read The Way of Kings, so in a way I should soon. So if it wins, that's good. So, okay, I'm kind of confused of where to start with this. It seems like it has multiple prologues, which is okay with me. I'm gonna say this first prologue is the first paragraph, which I believe this is the first prologue. Calic rounded a rocky stone ridge and stumbled to a stop before the body of a dying thunderclast. The enormous stone beast lay on its side, rib-like protrusions from its chest broken and cracked. The monstrosity was vaguely skeletal in shape, with unnaturally long limbs that sprouted from Granite's shoulders. The eyes were deep red spots on the arrowhead face. As if created by a fire burning deep within the stone, they faded. There's like a stone beast, but it's like dying, so it's been alive. Dying thunderclast, but it's made of stone. Skeletal. Okay, yeah, I love Brandon Sanderson. This probably is an amazing book, like everyone says. Or it kind of intrigues me by some of the lore that you get from the very first paragraph. So, definitely a contender. Even though I did have to reread to see what the heck was going on, but that is a good sign for an epic fantasy for sure. So we have these 5 from the first half that I already have in order and rated. Now I just have to put the others in. Let's go ahead. This one goes at the bottom. Patrick Rothfuss, you really need to do more than just throw them in a dark inn in the first paragraph. Come on. Okay. Red Mars was pretty good. Red Mars I'm putting above Lies of Locke, Lamora. Oh, this was supposed to be her. So here we have the last 3 that I'm most conflicted about for the ranking is this deep fantasy lore coming out in the first paragraph. Very impressive. Romance leading to potentially murderous couple. And violence, rock throwing. Rock throwing is really interesting to me. So I almost wonder, like, I kind of feel like these 3 are actually up here with S.T.A.G.S, which is the main character murderer. I'm just going to say for me, starting with romance is going to be below. So I'm going to put that, of these that I'm really looking at, the romance intro is going to go lowest. Then we have murder, throwing a rock, and deep fantasy lore. I feel like I've been giving The Way of Kings an advantage in a way in my head because I trust Brandon Sanderson, so I know that that's going to go somewhere well. If this was another author, I'd wonder if they could execute it well. So because of that, and because the height might be having me bring it up closer up to the front, I'm going to put Way of Kings here. And then I might be a little simplistic, but I'm between woman who doesn't know she's a murderer, or maybe it's a man, I don't know, and someone throwing a rock at someone. These are both really short intros. I didn't know the short intros would get me. You know what? I think I'm gonna go with I think I might be a murderer. I have to know. I just really do. And this has not even been a highly anticipated book for me. This is one I just got because I found it on sale for cheap. Congratulations to S.T.A.G.S for convincing me to read it with one sentence. That's very, very impressive. And the loser goes to The Name of the Wind. Come on. This is like, I imagine this is an amazing book, but just an inn at night. No. Come on. So if you would like to harshly judge books based off their first paragraph, I'm going to have in the description how I did this challenge. Copying me would be a great compliment, so please copy me. Basically, all you need to do is grab 5 to 10 books from your bookshelf that you haven't read the first paragraph, judge that first paragraph, and pick a winner to put on your next month's TBR. I would like to invite the following people to do this: The Reading Mushroom, Lost in a Bookcase, Gabby's Arcanum, David's Book Reviews, Lady Jane Books, Sunny Luca, Just Martine, City of Books, Mary the Raccoon, and Red Panda Reads. I'm gonna make sure to put all of their channels in the description. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and hopefully I'll see you later.